Hello, it's me again, Kalispera, or good afternoon, as they say here in Greece. Different time of the day every time. So there you go. It's the day before the summer solstice, and it's nice and warm here on the island of Lesbos in Greece. So no complaints at all, I would say. I'm today want to talk a little bit about the twin flame or twin soul journey. And on the internet, there's a lot of talk about it, and some good things, some not so good things. I tend to, as you know, explain things rather simplistically, and also it's very much based on my own experience and not just on things that I've read over the years, left, right and center on the internet, and you know where you can get all this kind of stuff. So there you go. So I want to keep it relatively simple and again focused a little bit on my journey. In fact, at the end of this journey, I will tell you a little bit about my own personal experience over many years on this subject. So there you go. I want to start telling you what it is not. Because a lot of people seem to think that finding your twin soul, the other half of your soul, and having soul recognition then ends up in the ultimate love experience. You can't get better love. It is the recognition, it is loving yourself, which of course is your twin flame, and all that kind of things. Let me assure you, it is not. It is not a very romantic, all singing, all dancing experience at all. There's a part of it, and I come to that, but most of it, it is not. And there's a very good reason for that. And again, I will explain that a little bit. The twin flame journey is the path that you walk with your twin flame in this life. As I think I mentioned in the previous video, obviously same soul split into two, and you are here for a reason. And the reason is to basically come over your own things that you need to learn, your own hurdles that you still need to clear and what have you. And by doing so, you're doing that exactly the same thing for your twin flame, for your twin soul. So that's another part of this fun thing, is that only one needs to do this because the other will do it automatically with you, being here in the real or not. So I'll come back to that a little bit as well. So the purpose of this whole journey is that spiritual awakening, the awareness of yourself, your own, and of course your twin flame soul. That's the whole purpose of being on this journey. But every journey is extremely unique, because living in a 3D world, in this world, you know, with all the rights and the wrongs and the lefts and the rights and what have you, is very different to being in the ultimate 5D dimension, which is the ultimate love and the ultimate this, that and the other. That world we're not living in. So we're living here in that 3D world, as I explained in the other video. And because of that, you can have a very romantic relationship, and you cannot. Because remember, that is two different things altogether. Being here in the 3D physical world together with anybody for that matter is something very different than the soul recognition that you have when you meet your twin flame. So it is different. Hence, it is possible, to come back to my first statement, that you will have a nice romantic relationship, but it's also very much possible that you will not. It's as likely as you find your ultimate soulmate, which is the person that you're likely to marry with or be with. That's not necessarily the case with a twin flame, with your twin soul. So there's the difference. So it is unique. And therefore, everybody that tells you that this is the twin flame journey, this is the steps that you need to go through, this is not true to some extent. There are certain things that you will go through, and I'll cover those in a second, in your typical twin flame journey. But that, again, has very little to do with the relationship you may or may not have with your twin flame in the 3D world. I hope that makes sense. Some common steps that you will have in your twin flame journey. That is almost the same for everybody, and the timing between the steps is not determined at all. And when I discuss my twin flame journey at the end of this video, you'll discover why that is. So The first thing that you will encounter is that soul recognition. That's when you meet your twin flame for the first time, you recognize your twin flame for the first time. Again, the previous video goes into a lot of detail on that one, but that's your soul recognition. You will have that the moment you meet your twin flame, of course. And it's that very magical moment that that you're thinking, what on earth is happening here? Literally, what on earth is happening here? That's that soul recognition. Typically after that is a very intense loving period. And I call it loving in that it is a very loving period that can take many forms at all. You could be with your twin flame occasionally. You could decide to live very close to one another. I would not necessarily recommend doing that, and I'll mention that in a sec. But it's that very, very intense loving period. Why is it so intense, and why is it so unique versus any other loving relationship you have with anybody else in this world? Is because you recognize your own soul in your twin flame. And so it's almost like loving yourself. And that is such a unique experience. It is very strange. And therefore you almost like fell in a whirlpool of love that you don't recognize at all. And obviously your twin flame goes with you on that exact same experience. Why not, as I said, move together? Because typically that intense loving period doesn't last long. It can be a week, it can be a couple of months. It typically doesn't last longer than that, and that's why I said just don't make plans to move very close to your twin flame, because it might not be the best thing to do for maybe a couple of months experience from that loving point of view. So that's the intense loving period, and it is very intense. It is extremely intense. Now, the next stage that you might, again, I don't like the word stage because they're not really stages, but they're sort of periods that you go through with your twin, is the development cycle. This is time to think individually. So basically you're getting to distance yourself a little bit from your twin flame, and you're thinking, what on earth just happened after that intense loving period? Because that's exactly what it is. You think, what on earth just happens? And so the whole experience then becomes a sort of mirror experience. You mirror each other all the time. Again, previous video mentioned that quite clearly. My twin flame mirrors the things that I need to work on, and I mirror the things that she needs to work on. That's the whole idea about the twin flame journey. So it's basically putting it straight in your face. These are the things that you need to work on. To get that development that you need, your spiritual development. Again, I don't necessarily like the word spiritual, but I guess you know what I mean. So that's what that almost immediately after that extreme loving period, you get into that. And the result of that is that you got a push-pull dynamic. Because the moment I confront myself with, or through her mirroring, myself with things that I need to work on, that's exactly what she needs to work on. Now, that is an individual thing. And so what typically happens is that one of the twin flames, or both, decide, oh, I need time off. I need to work on these things. I just need the time to do this. And I take time off. And that's when you sort of separate again. I say sort of because you will never, ever, after you had soul recognition, be completely separate. There's an intense bond between you and your twin, but you're physically, in the 3D world, you physically might move apart and work on yourself. That's typically what happens. The moment that both twin flames have been through their own development, you will find that a lot of them come together again. And that's to get the next portion of mirroring, if you like, or things that you need to work on and your twin need to work on, and then you move apart again. So that's that push-pull that you will see in a typical twin relationship. That's perfectly normal. It is not nice. And I told you this at the start of the video, the whole twin flame journey isn't all nice and motherhood and apple pie and rosy and this and the other. No, it's hard work. And these periods are exactly for that, is to let yourself work on the things that you need to work on. And sometimes that's very confronting, very confronting. So how much time does it take to come back together again? It varies very much, very much. And when I mention my twin flame experience myself, you will find a little bit of reference to the times that my twin and I spent apart and came together again. So that's the push-pull dynamic that takes place. And once your soul is finally at rest and finally you worked on everything that you need to work on, then that's the end of that whole stage. And it's not easy, but once you get to that, you suddenly feel the moment what I call the union between you and your twin. That's not to say physically that you then decide, right, this is it, we're done. Let's buy ourselves a cottage at the sea and we'll live there happily ever after. That's not what I mean. It is that you both realize that you now worked on the things that you need to work on. And it's a very serene, calming sort of experience. And that's the end, basically, of the twin flame journey. Now, I say the end of it, that means that that's the end of your spiritual path and being on this path as a result of being on a twin flame journey. That's why you met your twin flame in the first place. That's the whole idea. If you, being in this 3D world, then decide to get together and get married and all this kind of good stuff, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. And that may happen and it may not happen. That's exactly the same as you meet anybody else, for that matter, in your world. And you're thinking, oh, I really love that person. And yes, you may marry that person or you may not, or you live together or not. You see what I mean? That's a 3D decision that's got nothing to do anymore with your twin flame journey. That thing is past. The union has taken place the moment that both of you feel that you worked through all the things that you need to work through. And whatever comes after that, entirely up to you. So I hope that makes a bit sense. It's probably not the story that you've heard from many others. The all singing, all dancing, loving relationship, it is not. And the purpose, I hope, is also evident in that, you need to work, and your twin need to work on the issues that you need to work on to get that spiritual development. That's the whole purpose of it. Nice and simple, I hope. I promised you to tell you a little bit about my twin flame journey. I met my twin flame about 40 odd years ago. We, at that stage, in fact, both of us had never heard of what twin flames, twin souls are really all about. So for us, it was like, okay, you're very different, you're very special, but I can't put my finger on it and say, I don't know why you're so special. It's just weird. It's very confusing, but in a positive way. We went through a quite sort of strange probing, if that's the word, of what it means for my twin and what it means to me, that relationship, but we couldn't define it in any shape or form. And as a result of that, we didn't progress very much. Also, we had traveled a lot in the past. And so, there weren't many moments that we met. We did keep in touch through, obviously, the modern things like internet and whatever, and that helped because that not necessarily physically together didn't held us back progressing with the mirroring and working on the things that we need to work on. So you don't physically need to be together, and we did that for quite some time. After quite a long time, years and years and years, we finally figured out what it is that we were experiencing, that twin flame relationship, and that was mind-boggling when we finally discovered what it was. And we actually went back a little bit to that indeed intense loving stage. And again, it worked through that whole process. Again, slightly different, but at least it was quite similar. To the point that we eventually drifted apart, not because we were done, because we knew we weren't done, but because we had other things in our life going on and it just didn't happen. I didn't see my twin flame for 15 years. For circumstances not that pleasant, we got together again. There was somebody that passed away, and that brought us together again, and so that again became quite an intense period. And at the moment, again, we're in our own ways, in our own way. We're going our own way. It may well be that we are finished. I'm personally not that convinced about it. Maybe we are, maybe we're not. But that's the other thing. You don't need to worry about it. You don't need to think like, okay, I think I've got everything now. I've worked through everything. The universe will make it absolutely crystal clear to you when you are done. And if that is the case, then that's okay too. If it isn't, then believe it or not, you have no choice. You will eventually come together again in one way or another. So that's a twin flame relation that I have with my twin, and that's in line with everything I discussed before this, in relation to the purpose of the whole thing, the stages that you might go through. But I hate the word stages, because that's almost like, okay, I've been through that, yeah, tick, let's go to the next one. It doesn't work like that. Just let it be. But I can guarantee you, if you met your twin flame, you had your soul recognition, then you will recognize some of the things I just talked about, one way or another. So there you go. Right, I hope this helped again. If you like it, just click the like button and subscribe to the channel. That helps me. And that will also make sure that when I post my next video, you get a little reminder that, oh, there he is again. So there you have it. Okay, so till the next video, and the next video will be on the subject of the mind versus the soul. It's a very, very, very important subject, and hence I want to have a special video on this rather than trying to cram it in this one as well. Thank you very much, and see you soon.